Hi, I just want to share a little postscript to Ross's message from First Kings, and it's just a few verses in that passage that always really get me. So I'll start by just reading a bit of that passage again. So 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 4 to 8, and this is talking about Elijah. So Elijah went a day's journey into the wilderness, and he came to a broom bush, sat down under it, and prayed that he might die. "I've had enough, Lord," he said. "Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." Then he lay down under the bush and fell asleep. All at once an angel touched him and said, "Get up and eat." He looked around, and there by his head was some bread baked over hot coals and a jar of water. He ate and drank and then lay down again. The angel of the Lord came back a second time and touched him and said, "Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you." So he got up and ate and drank. Strengthened by that food, he travelled 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Horeb, the mountain of God. So I don't know about you, but before I go off on a tramping expedition, I make sure that I've had a decent bowl of porridge with fruit, followed by scrambled eggs, etc., etc. Poor old Elijah had to make do with a loaf of bread and not even anything to put on it, let alone packed lunch, snacks along the way. Where was his scroggin? Doesn't God know that our bodies need a balanced diet with protein as well as carbs? At least the bread was fresh baked. But if God himself is going to supernaturally provide food for us, wouldn't we expect a feast? With all the nutrients our bodies need, plus some extras just for treats to delight our senses, especially if we were feeling so depressed we just want to die. Surely God understands that some comfort food is needed. I don't read that Elijah complained. And what's more, on the strength of that plain loaf of bread and jar of water, he was able to cover about 400 kilometres by foot, walking every day for over a month. If the title for Ross's little chat was, "Is God enough?" mine might be, "Is God's provision enough?" I often think about this with regard to the Israelites wandering about in the desert for 40 years, just eating manna. I'm sure it was some sort of heavenly superfood with all the vitamins and minerals that were needed, and although the Bible tells us it was sweet to the taste, again, it was no mouth-watering feast. It sounds plain and boring. I'm sure I would have been hankering after the leeks and garlic of Egypt too. Sure, it was amazing, miraculous provision, but why didn't God spice things up a bit with variety? Why was it so plain and tedious, day after day after day? When the Israelites complained to God that the manna wasn't enough, that they wanted meat, he sent them meat all right. Numbers 11 tells the story, and I haven't time to read it all here, but it's definitely worth a look. I'll just give you a few verses. So God said, "So I will give them meat. They won't eat it just for 1 or 2 days, or 5 or 10 or 20 days, but for a whole month, until it comes out of their ears and they're sick of it." Further on in that chapter it says, "While the meat was still in their mouths, before they had even had a chance to chew it, the Lord became angry with the people and struck them with a severe plague. That place was called Kibroth Hattaavah, graves of those who craved meat, because they buried the people who had a strong craving for meat there." This is a sobering story for us to wrestle with. The problem wasn't just that the people asked for meat, but that they rejected the Lord and his provision for them. They were saying that God was not enough. Then I look at Jesus and find him saying in John chapter 6, verses 50 to 51, "But the bread that comes down from heaven is such that a person may eat it and not die. I am the living bread that has come down from heaven. If anyone eats this bread, he will live forever. Furthermore, the bread that I will give is my own flesh, and I will give it for the life of the world." Our King, who is the sustainer of the universe, likens himself to bread, not steak, not roast chicken or some plant-based equivalent, not a rich dark chocolate mud cake or Christmas cake. He uses plain bread for his metaphor. Isaiah 53, verses 2 to 3. He was not well formed or especially handsome. We saw him, but his appearance did not attract us. People despised and avoided him. A man of pains, well acquainted with illness, like someone from whom people turn their faces. He was despised. We did not value him. So often we want God to offer us a feast, but he comes in the form of plain bread, nothing more. Some will be disappointed because they are looking for a feast of comfort food that is tasty and easy to eat, but is nutritionally deficient. The lasting symbol Jesus gives to us of himself is the unleavened bread of Passover. Not soft and fluffy white bread, which is so easy and delicious to eat, but hard and dry, which needs to be chewed well. His word is also like that, bread to be eaten, even when it feels dry and crusty, hard to chew, let alone swallow. The Bible in its entirety is there for our daily sustenance. And yet, if we will take this bread of God and his word and eat of it by faith, he will most surely be enough for us, and not just for us, but baskets full of leftovers to share with all those who are hungry.